Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Vajajanarandana Yashodanandana Vajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Srila Prabhupada Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. So welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Let's start with our verses here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Let's recite this together. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamaśloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So today we're reading from Canto 7, Chapter 11, called The Perfect Society, 4 Social Classes, and we're going to be covering texts 25 to 29. Yeah, 29. Okay. So this is all about, this is Narada Muni instructing Maharaj Yudhisthira about the Varnashram system. And the last class, Mr. Dumne gave class, he was talking about, Narada Muni was outlining the different duties of the different Varnas. And now there's a section, he's moving into other kinds of duties, and this pertains to the duties of women. So this class is about Sri Dharma. Okay, so we're starting from text 25. Is there a mic?
Okay.
Or it's just a few verses, I can also, well, I'll just start. So text 25. To render service to the husband, to be always favorably disposed towards the husband, to be equally well disposed towards the husband's relatives and friends, and to follow the vows of the husband. These are the 4 principles to be followed by women, described as chaste. So, after describing the duties of the 4 varnas, which apply to men and women, then Narada Muni says, he starts off the Sanskrit verse here saying, Strinam cha, which means, cha means also, and stri means women. Strinam is like plural, women. So he's saying that women also have some additional duties. So in addition to, if someone is a Brahmani, then she's going to be studious, she's going to learn, she's going to teach, she's going to, perform a priestly role in the family, in the society. If she's a Vaishya, she's going to be, doing some business, having a business mind. But as a woman, she has additional duties, and those are duties towards the husband. So it's saying that generally the wife, should be supportive to the husband. And to the extent that he says, Strinam cha pati devanam, that she should take her pati, her husband, to be like a deva, to be like a representative of the Lord, or worshipable, in the sense that, just like a guru. So there's another verse that in 11th canto that says that any person should take the spiritual master as Gurudeva Tatma, and we often address our spiritual masters as Gurudev, right? So what does that mean, Gurudev? And so it means that you take your guru as worshipable, as the worshipable representative of the Supreme Lord. So a theme here in these verses that I want to bring out is that what Narada Muni is enunciating for women, it basically applies to everyone in their relationship with their person who's like their master or mentor or guru, like that. So the same principles that apply for children with their parents, for men with their spiritual master, for it's mentioned, some of the same language is used, like in the next line of this verse it says, Tat Shushusha. So the Shushusha is used in text 15 in relation to how the Shudras need to serve the 3 higher classes. It says Dvija Shushusha. So Shushusha means to hear from, to accept instructions from, and to follow those instructions. Right? Like we have the famous verse from 1st Canto 1-2-16 where it says, Shushusho Shradadana Sya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. That by serving great souls, by serving devotees, Mahat Seva, great service is done, because by such service one gains an affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva, or hearing Krishna Katha. So everyone has their path of shushusha, or service, hearing and serving. Of course, hearing and serving go together, because if you don't hear, how do you know how to serve? Right? You have to hear what the person wants, what the person needs, how they want you to serve them, and then you know how to serve. So, in the same way, the wife, she is meant to listen to the husband, understand his mind, understand his needs, and then support him accordingly. And anukulata means being favorably disposed towards the husband. And that same word comes up in relation to our service to Krishna, right? Anukul, like in the verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. What is that? Anya vilashita shunyam yana karma dhyanabhitam anukul yena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. So first class devotional service is that which you render to the Lord, which is free from any, impersonalist tendencies, any desire for material benefits, and is done favorably. So the word anukulya is there, anukulya. So just as a disciple should serve the guru favorably, we should all serve Krishna favorably. The wife should also serve her husband favorably, according to his desires. And not only him, but also she should have a nice, favorable attitude towards his friends, his family, and and then also follow the vows of the husband. So if the husband has a vow, right, to chant 16 rounds, to follow the 4 regular principles, then the wife should also follow that vow. So I know there are some devotee couples, even here in our community, where It was quite funny. We had a program at Tulsi Saki's house when remember? You were there? I think it was just a ladies' program. It was only the women there. And they were talking about how they came to Krishna consciousness, right? A little bit in brief. And there were at least two there that they said that they came because they got married. And they didn't know that their husbands were ISKCON devotees until they married them. And one of them, I think, wasn't even a vegetarian. And she was just thinking, yippee, I'm going to America, going to live the good life, going to enjoy all the, things that are on offer here in the materialistic West. And then she comes here to, she gets married and she moves in with her husband over here. And then she realizes, oh, he's an ISKCON devotee. He's like, not doing all those things. And in fact, I have to give up a lot of things that I wasn't planning to give up. And then they may feel a little like, what happened. But gradually they, of course they're not going to eat meat if the husband's a vegetarian, and they have to give up onions and garlic as well. And so there's just some difficulty there in the beginning, but gradually by following the vows of the husband and starting to, wake up early because he wakes up early, preparing for learning how to offer food to Krishna because the husband needs prasadam and that's her duty. Then gradually they became devotees and they got initiated and they're really happy in Krishna consciousness. So that's a good example of this. And that's the principle behind this, is that everything in the Bhagavatam, the whole Vedic culture, is meant for our spiritual advancement. So everything that's being said here is just to help us fallen souls come closer to Krishna and develop saintly qualities. And the way to develop saintly qualities, the path to becoming the devotee is the path of service. Because that's what it means to be a devotee, it means to be a servant of Krishna and his devotees. So it's kind of like a situation where, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 12 that just always think of me, absorb your consciousness fully in me, serve me with unalloyed devotion, and that's the perfection of life. And then he says, in the next verse he says, but if you can't do that, then follow the regular principles with the desire to achieve a relationship with me. And he says, but if you can't do that, then just do your ordinary work, just work according to your nature, and offer the results of your work to me. Try to connect that to me somehow. Because if you can't even do that, then at least, give some charity to a good cause, or, try to be a little renounced, or do some austerity or something. So, all of these moods of service, right? They all apply to our devotion to Krishna, to Guru and Krishna. That we should take the Guru as our deva. That we should hear, shushusha, and serve the Guru and Krishna. That we should be favorably inclined towards the friends of the Guru, the god brothers and god sisters of the Guru, towards all the devotees who are dear to Krishna. And that we should uphold the vows that are instructed and exemplified by our Gurus. So it's kind of like, well, if you can't do that, if you're a woman, then just serve your husband. If you're a Shudra, just serve the higher classes. If you're a child, just serve your parents. If you're a male in one of the higher classes, then just do your duties according to what's laid out. So, but it's very nice because everything's in alignment. And by doing these things, we develop that spirit of hearing and serving and self-sacrifice. And that's what the whole Vedic culture is giving us, is teaching us, is trying to enculture us into, is a culture of selflessness, of selfless service, of sacrificing oneself for a higher cause, for a higher purpose. And the way that looks in Varnashram is different depending on your situation in Varnashram, your varna, your class, position, your gender, your age, like that. So, but all of these gradually lead into devotional service. And especially if your husband is a devotee, then there's so many benefits, because it's basically Vaishnava Seva, right? If you're serving a devotee, if you're favorably inclined towards them, if you're following their vows, like the examples given, that you're making spiritual advancement, and that's very pleasing to Krishna, right? Krishna says that service to his devotees is more pleasing to him than service to himself directly. So we can serve Krishna by serving his devotees. And in Krishna conscious family life, there's unlimited opportunities for Vaishnava Seva. Right? The wife is serving her husband, and the children are serving the parents are also serving the children, the husband's also serving the wife. It's mutual. Right? It's not that husband is only serving, wife is only serving the husband is just like, yeah, serve me, do this, do that, right? Any husband here knows that it's not like that in reality. And this is the way also that the wife conquers the heart of the husband, is through this, sweet, submissive attitude of service. And we're going to see as this progresses that the mood of service is very affectionate, loving. It's not like, I'm your servant. It's like, it's loving. And then, so by that loving service, then the husband's heart is conquered, and then he'll basically do anything for the wife. So Prabhupada says this is the secret for the wife to be happy in marriage and get all of her needs fulfilled. Just serve the husband, be very sweet and affectionate towards the husband, and he'll do everything for you. So, yeah. All right, let's go ahead here to text 26-27. Someone, whoever has the mic, like to read that?
A chaste woman must dress nicely and decorate herself with golden ornaments for the pleasure of her husband. Always wearing clean and attractive garments, she should sweep and clean the household with water and other liquids so that the entire house is always pure and clean. She should collect the household paraphernalia and keep the house always aromatic with incense and flowers, and must be ready to execute the desires of her husband. Being modest and truthful, controlling her senses and speaking in sweet words, a chaste woman should engage in the service of her husband with love, according to time and circumstances.
Okay, thank you very much. So now Narada Muni goes into some details of how a wife should serve the husband, and it starts with dressing nicely. So generally the nature of a man is that he wants a wife who's beautiful, right? And so that's easy because women also tend to like being beautiful, right? Something that most women value is beauty. So dressing nicely, decorating with ornaments, and keeping the house also very beautiful, clean, sattvic. And this is supportive also for his, purity of mind, because when the home is very clean and tidy and aromatic, and there are flowers and nice things, it's good interior design, and its furniture is well placed, and there are nice decorations in the home. Then it's very soothing, because the material world is stressful, especially in Kali Yuga. And typically and traditionally, the man has to go out in the world and work. And when he comes home after a hard day's work, and tired and stressed and disturbed, and walks through the front door and clean, it's beautiful, it smells nice, it's just like, so happy to be home, right? And then of course he knows that it's his wife's, energy that made it like that, so he immediately feels appreciative towards the wife, a feeling of gratitude and respect, which she will reciprocate. So, yeah, and these are all also qualities of a devotee. Again, if we look at some of the, especially the last few lines of verse 27, it says sadhvi. It says the wife should be a sadhvi. So Prabhupada translate that as chaste. That's a little bit of a contextual translation of sadhvi, because sadhvi is the female form of sadhu. So it means that she should be a sadhu. The wife should be a saintly person. Wife should be saintly. And sadhu, another meaning of sadhu is correct or right, like to do the right thing means sadhu. Even in Sanskrit, if you would ask someone, is it all right for me to open the window? You would use the word sadhu, right? Like, I would like to have another chapati. Is that all right? You would say sadhu. Is that sadhu? Is that sadhu? Is that fine? Is that okay with you? you would use the word sadhu. Like, it means to do the right thing. So somebody who does the right thing, who behaves properly, who has good conduct, that person is a sadhu. And what is the measure of good conduct? It's according to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So, a sadhu is one who follows the Shastras and the guidelines for how to behave, how to be a proper human being, how to be a nice devotee, what are actual desirable qualities. So the wife should be a sadhvi. She should do the right thing, and according to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And then prashrayena means with modesty. So do everything modestly. And then dhamena, control the senses. So this is also another general quality of a devotee, or a quality of a Brahmin, is dhamena, sense control. The wife should be very self-controlled, not indulgent, not lustful or greedy. And then satyai, so satyam, truthful. And this is again another quality of a Brahmin, is to be truthful. It's also one of the austerities of speech, is to speak words that are truthful. Right? So this applies to anyone who's a noble, exalted, respectable person, is that we should be saintly, we should be truthful, we should control our senses. And then priya, very pleasing, to act in ways that are pleasing, to speak in ways that are pleasing. And then Narada Muni goes so far as to use the word premna. He uses the word prema, with love. So it's an interesting use of this word, because often Prabhupada would talk about how there's two words for love, right? And one is kama and the other is prema. And kama means, love that's based on more of a material attraction. Or I love this person because they fulfill my desires, they make me happy, and generally in material relationships between man and woman, the word kama is used. But here, Narada Muni is saying that, no, it should be prema. The love should be pure. It should be a pure love. It shouldn't be a selfish love, that I love my husband because he fulfills my desires, he provides for me, and he satisfies my all different desires for material things, desire for a romantic relationship, desire for affection, desire for whatever material desires a woman may have, and that she expects her husband to fulfill. That's not what Narada Muni is talking about. She shouldn't just love him for that. She should love him because he's a servant of Krishna, right? Love, Prabhupada says love, the word prema is only applied to Krishna. So she should love her husband because he's a soul, he's a part and parcel of Krishna, and he's an eternal servant of Krishna. And when the wife sees her husband in that light, and loves him in that way, then it's very pure, it's very transcendental. The relationship is pure, and the exchanges between them are uplifting and inspiring, rather than degrading. So that's the basis of Krishna conscious family life, or Krishna conscious grihastha ashram, relationship between husband and wife, is that they see each other as spirit souls, as eternal servants of Krishna, and there's mutual respect, there's mutual love, just as you would want to love and serve Krishna, you love and serve Krishna's parts and parcels, his dear servants, because that pleases Krishna. So that's the kind of love that a woman should have for her husband. Okay, and then Kale, she should serve him according to time, place, and circumstances, whatever is appropriate. So there's no hard and fast rules, but the wife should use her intelligence to know what is needed at this time. How does my husband need me to serve him? How am I needed to show up in this circumstance to support? And that would be different times. And also in terms of showing affection, showing that love, what's appropriate, right? Because there's certain forms of love that are appropriate to be shown in some places and not others. So there needs to be a sense of discrimination there. Okay, now we're going to actually get to the verse that we're going to, which is our focus verse. But those verses lead up to this one, so I didn't want to start with this one. So let's go to text 28 and we'll see the Sanskrit. Santushta lolupadaksha Dharmagya Priya Satyavak,
Dharmagya Priya Satyavak,
Apramata Shuchi Snigdha,
Apramata Suchi Snigdha,
Patim Tva Patitam Bhajet,
Patim Tva Patikam Bhajet,
Santushta Lolupadaksha,
Santushta
Dharmagya Priya Satyavak,
Dharmagya Priya Satyavak,
Apramata Shuchi Snigdha,
Apramata Suchi Snigdha,
Patim Tva Patitam Bhajet.
Patim Tva Patikam Bhajet.
Disha? Santushta Lolupadaksha, Dharmagya Priya Satyavak, Apramata Shuchi Snigdha, Patim Tva Patitam Bhajet. Santushta Lolupadaksha, Dharmagya Priya Satyavak, Apramata Shuchi Snigdha, Patim Tva Patitam Bhajet. Santushta Lolupadaksha, Dharmagya Priya Satyavak, Apramata Shuchi Snigdha, Patim Tva Patitam Bhajet. Alright, let's just do the word for word together. Santushta, always satisfied. Alolupa, without being greedy. Daksha, very expert in serving. Dharmagya, fully conversant with religious principles. Priya, pleasing. Satya, truthful. Vak, in speaking. Apramata, attentive in service to her husband. Shuchi, always clean and pure. Snigdha, affectionate. Patim, the husband. Tu, but. Apatitam, who is not fallen. Bhajet, should worship. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A chaste woman should not be greedy, but satisfied in all circumstances. She must be very expert in handling household affairs and should be fully conversant with religious principles. She should speak pleasingly and truthfully and should be very careful and always clean and pure. Thus a chaste woman should engage with affection in the service of a husband who is not fallen. So again, Narada Muni is repeating some of these qualities, right, in terms of being truthful, satyam, and these are, again, qualities of a devotee. If we look at the 26 qualities of a devotee, we're going to see these kinds of qualities. Being truthful, daksha, being expert in serving, santu, being satisfied, not greedy. So these are all qualities that are very favorable for devotional service. And so Narada Muni is trying to instruct that women have these qualities because serve your husband with these qualities, and the more we aspire for these qualities and try to serve with these qualities, then the more these qualities are going to actually manifest. So, yeah. But what Prabhupada brings out in the purport is the last part. Patim Tva Patitam Bhajet is the qualification of the husband, whom the wife should serve with these qualities, and that is that he should be a patitam, not fallen. Right? Patita, we say, Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Right? Means he's the purifier of the fallen, the savior of the fallen. So the husband should not be a patitam. The husband should be a patitam. He shouldn't be patita. He shouldn't be fallen. He should be not fallen. Okay, so let's see what Srila Prabhupada says about this. According to the injunction of Yajna-Valkya, an authority on religious principles, Ashuddhe Sampratikshohi Mahapataka Dushita. One is considered contaminated by the reactions of great sinful activities when one has not been purified according to the methods of the Dasha Vidha Samskara. In Bhagavad Gita, however, the Lord says, Namam diskritino mudha prapadyante naradama. Those miscreants who do not surrender unto me are the lowest of mankind. The word naradama means non-devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, Ye bhaje se bada abhakta hina chara. Anyone who is a devotee is sinless. One who is not a devotee, however, is the most fallen and condemned. It is recommended, therefore, that a chaste wife not associate with a fallen husband. A fallen husband is one who is addicted to the 4 principles of sinful activity, namely illicit sex, meat-eating, gambling, and intoxication. Specifically, if one is not a soul surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is understood to be contaminated. Thus, a chaste woman is advised not to agree to serve such a husband. It is not that a chaste woman should be like a slave while her husband is Naradama, the lowest of men. Although the duties of a woman are different from those of a man, a chaste woman is not meant to serve a fallen husband. If her husband is fallen, it is recommended that she give up his association. Giving up the association of her husband does not mean, however, that a woman should marry again and thus indulge in prostitution. If a chaste woman unfortunately marries a husband who is fallen, she should live separately from him. Similarly, a husband can separate himself from a woman who is not chaste according to the description of the Shastra. The conclusion is that a husband should be a pure Vaishnava and that a woman should be a chaste wife with all the symptoms described in this regard. Then both of them will be happy and make spiritual progress in Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is very important because often we hear about, the duties of the wife and how the wife should be like this and the wife should be like that, and basically the wife should be like Sita Devi. But we don't so much hear about how the husband should be like this and the husband should be like that and the husband should be like Lord Ramachandra. So, every devotee man wants a wife like Sita, but the husband also needs to be qualified, like Ram, to deserve such a wife. And so it's mutual. Right? And the reason that Narada Muni is specifying this is because we develop the qualities of the person whom we serve. So if the wife's duty is to serve the husband, Narada Muni doesn't want her to serve a husband who is sinful, who is a fallen rascal, who's just doing all kinds of nonsense and has all kinds of bad qualities, because then she's not going to be elevated by serving him, she's actually going to be degraded by serving him. And he says, with the sake of serving such a husband, she shouldn't even stay with such a husband. She should live separately, Prabhupada is saying. And this is very interesting because in the Vedic culture, divorce is something that's unheard of. And Prabhupada practically never supported it or encouraged it. And he always, pretty much always, most oftentimes, encouraged husbands and wives to stay together. But here he's saying that in the case that the husband is just really bad, it's just a really bad person, it is not following principles, then the woman doesn't have to stay, or in fact should not stay with such a fallen husband. And he says it's recommended that she give up his association. So, yeah. And I was having a discussion with one of the senior devotee one time about different nuances to this, because sometimes it may be that a devotee husband is following all the regular principles very strictly and is even chanting his japa, but then, he's very critical. Let's say he's just very critical of devotees, always just finding fault and blaspheming devotees, blaspheming senior devotees, is inimical towards, their spiritual master, is encouraging his wife also to, not engage in service at the temple, to encouraging the wife to break her connection with her spiritual master, and it's just being like horribly offensive. But he's chanting his rounds and he's following the 4 regular principles. So how to, is he fallen? Is he not fallen? So basically he's fallen, because he's he's committing aparad. So when it comes to sinful activity, actually Vaishnava aparad is worse than sinful activity. It's more destructive. And if someone does a sin, then they can, especially if it's an accidental sin, then they can just kind of pick themselves up and brush themselves off and start again, right? And Krishna says that that person, even if a devotee commits an abominable activity, then he should be considered saintly if he's rightly situated in his determination. So if the husband has some little slip up where he, maybe breaks a regular principle, but he feels remorseful and, reconfirms his resolve to, be pure and follow the principles, then that person shouldn't be rejected because he's rightly situated in his determination. On the other hand, if he's just addicted to sinful activities and not willing to give them up, and also has totally validated his sinful activity and rationalized it and trying to convince others that it's okay, then that person is just fallen. But worse than sinful activity is Vaishnava aparad, because that's just so destructive, right? That's the mad elephant offense that destroys one's bhakti, and it contaminates everyone, not just the person who commits the offense or is blaspheming devotees, but anyone who hears it. So in the scriptures it says that if we hear the blasphemy of a great devotee, then we should, there are different prescriptions that are quite severe, right? That we should cut off the person's tongue who said it, that we should kill ourselves, or that we should just leave the place, leave the association. So it's very extreme, hopefully. And of course, we're not condoning that somebody, goes and kills themselves because they heard some, but leave the place. So what to speak of if you live with somebody who's constantly blaspheming devotees, then that's not favorable at all. You need to leave the place. You need to leave that association. And then worse, if the husband is abusive. So that's another thing, is that a woman is not recommended to stay with an abusive husband, who's physically violent, who's sexually abusive, who's emotionally abusive. And of course, there's a difference between a husband who's just difficult, who just has a difficult personality, who's irritable. We saw. Did we get to that part yet? No, I think that comes later. Sukanya and Shavana Muni. Did we study that yet? It comes later. I think it comes later. In the ninth. Yeah, it's in the ninth canto. So when we get to the ninth canto, we'll hear about Sukanya and Shavana Muni. And so Sukanya is a young girl, and she marries this grumpy old man. He's just irritable, and he gets angry really easily, and he's never satisfied with her service. But he's not abusive. He's not nasty to her. He doesn't, gaslight her and make her feel like she's a complete loser and she can't do anything right. And that he doesn't beat her. He doesn't rape her. He's not like that. He's just an irritable, grumpy old man. So she just learns how to do things in such a way that he doesn't get angry, he doesn't get upset. She just tries extra hard to please him. And then he actually appreciates her service, to the extent that he, by his mystic powers, because he's a Muni, he changes himself into, a young, dashing, handsome young man, just to, make her happy that she's not married to an old invalid with his veins sticking out and his skin hanging over his eyes, because he was really old. Anyways, So if the husband is, an emotionally, psychologically healthy individual, is not, narcissistic and abusive, but he's just, has a difficult personality, if the wife really tries very hard to please him by her service, by her sweet words, by her affection, by keeping the household very nicely, by doing her duties, by supporting him in his work, in achieving his goals, his material and spiritual goals, then he's going to appreciate her, and he's going to try to, adjust his mentality, adjust his tendencies, so that she can be happy with him, basically, because he wants to keep her, right? So, just in the same way that Shavana Muni made some adjustments, he basically adjusted his whole physical form to make his wife happy. So, a husband who is, doesn't have a personality disorder, is when he's pleased with his wife and he sees how she's sacrificing herself for him in the ways that we just read about, then he's going to reciprocate by trying to please her, by trying to make sure that she's happy, feels cared for, she's comfortable, and not miserable in the relationship, basically. But if the husband is abusive and doesn't show any signs of caring about how she feels, and just puts her down all the time, and especially if he's physically violent, sexually violent, then she's not obligated to stay with that person. That's what Prabhupada says. There's a way out. You don't have to stay with that kind of person. So that's something to just keep in mind. No one has to stay in an abusive relationship. And if someone is in a relationship that she feels may be abusive, and a husband may also be in an abusive relationship, although it's less common, but that can be there, then they need to get help, right? And there's help at hand. And you can go to senior mentors, you can approach marriage counselors, we have the Grihastha Vision team, and just say, this is my situation, what should I do? Is it healthy? Should I remain in this situation? Should I try harder? Can we get some kind of counseling or family therapy to work through these things? And there are steps that you can take. But Prabhupada says that if the husband is a pure Vaishnava and the woman behaves in all the ways that Narada Muni has recommended, then both of them will be happy and they'll make spiritual progress in Krishna consciousness. And then the next verse, text 29, says that the woman who engages in the service of her husband, following strictly in the footsteps of the goddess of fortune, surely returns back home, back to Godhead with her devotee husband, and lives very happily in the Vaikuntha planets. So this is a nice benefit, that if your husband is a Vaishnava, and he's a nice person, and the wife serves him, then she achieves the same destination. So even if this is a great benediction for women, because for some women it's difficult to be very austere, it's difficult to do all the things or even have all the opportunities that maybe the husband has for service, depending on the country and the community that you live in. But if the husband's engaged in service and the husband is doing a lot of self-sacrifice for the benefit, for the pleasure of the Lord and the devotees, and the wife is just assisting him in those services, then she achieves the same destination. If he goes back to Godhead, then she also goes. And a good example of this is Tukaram. So Tukaram is a saint Vaishnav saint who lived at the time of Lord Chaitanya. He was actually a disciple of Lord Chaitanya. And he was always chanting the holy names, always engaged in devotional services. And his wife was actually, she was a little bitter about it. She wasn't happy that her husband was always just hearing and chanting. She was, because they were very poor. They barely had food to eat. They had children, and she was always like, "Can you just stop doing all this bhajan kirtan and earn some money?" So she was actually a little resentful of the extent of his devotion, that he was constantly just hearing and chanting, because he was a follower of Lord Chaitanya. Sankirtan was what his life was all about. And so she would actually, sometimes she would actually talk to Krishna. He was always going to the temple and worshiping Krishna. She would pray to Krishna, "Can you please just leave my husband alone? Can you just let him be like a responsible person and do his duties? Why do you have to take all his time and energy? He has responsibilities for the family. Can't you see our kids are starving?" Like that. So she had this relationship with Krishna that was like, she was always just like blaming him for, taking her husband away from her and stuff like that. But then at the end of his life, when Tukaram and his wife but the same thing, even though she wasn't happy with his service, she still served him. She still cooked for him, she took care of him, she was very, she would serve him, she would do everything for him. He was her life, and she really made him her pati deva. And even when he left, he decided one day that, the household life, I'm leaving, I'm going to go to the hills and live in the forest and just chant, all day. she would cook and she would go, he was up on this mountaintop, like living in some secluded forest, and she would cook and she would go and she would hike up this mountain and she's like tripping and falling because she's not used to mountain climbing, and she's going up this obscure, footpath, and she's carrying him his meals, every day. And then she would just give him his food and say, "You're crazy, I don't know what you're doing, but here's your lunch and bye." And so she served him like that. And at the end, when Tukaram was going back to Godhead, it's a very unique situation that is similar to like what we hear in the Bhagavatam of Dhruva Maharaj going back to Godhead, that the flower airplane came from Vaikuntha and just like landed there in his village and invited him to come aboard. And actually the Vishnu Dutas who came to get him, they said that because you're such a saint, you've purified your whole village. So anyone else in the village that wants to come back to Godhead, they can come. And so he was like, Tukaram was like, wow, what a great blessing, what a benediction. Everyone, this is it. This is your chance to achieve the perfection of human life and go back to Godhead. And he was inviting him. But everyone in the village, they were just like, no, actually, maybe later I'll take you up on the offer, but my daughter's getting married next month and I need to attend that. Or I've got a crop in the field, the harvest is due, and I can't just leave. And, they all had something that they thought was more important than going back home, back to Godhead. And so none of them came. But then his wife was there, and he didn't even have to ask her. She just came because she was like, my duty is to follow my husband, and even if I may not want to go, to live forever in Vaikuntha, but it's my duty as a wife to follow my husband, and I'll follow him anywhere. So she went back home, back to God. And of course, she got purified, on the way by contact with. She was already, pure from serving her husband, but her disposition. Of course, you can't go back to Godhead if you have some, bitterness towards the Lord. But on the journey, she became purified and qualified by the mercy of the Lord and his pure devotee, her husband. So, Prabhupada talks about how the wife gets a certain portion of the husband's his devotional credits. So there are many benefits to Grihastha life. Serving the husband who's a devotee, raising children in Krishna consciousness, and serving Krishna together, and everyone goes back home, back to Godhead, by following these nice instructions of Narada Muni. Okay, so I'll stop there. Anyone has any questions or comments? Tulsi Saki. Good example of a chaste wife.
Reading these verses and thinking, let me run and hide. But I guess it's really nice to read to know what the standard is and how I fall short every day. But I think the goal is to be humble, that this is what is expected, and just to know what the standard is, and pray sincerely that every day we can try maybe each a little closer, and do our best to try and be pleasing to Guru Sadhu and Krishna, and seeing our husband as devotees, and always being mindful of that.
Thank you. Yeah, and also the way that the wife serves a husband is according to, like what Narada Muni is saying, is to hear from the husband, to understand the mentality of the husband, and to serve the husband in a pleasing way, in a way that pleases the husband. So that is going to look different for every couple. Right? The way that a husband wants his wife to serve him is going to be different. Maybe some husbands, they want the wife to be, kind of in the subordinate, submissive, patiji kind of, to be more like a menial servant kind of role. And then the different husband may not want his wife to be like that with him. He may feel very uncomfortable with that, and he may want his wife to be just a friend, a companion, his best friend, to just be the person who goes here and there with him, and they have fun together, and they joke and laugh together, and like that. And then in another situation, maybe the husband needs the wife to be the provider. Maybe he's not capable of doing certain things, and the wife needs to help in certain ways. Or the husband may actually want the wife to take charge, of the family, and so that he can be free to do other things, right? Like there was this nice devotee couple in the UK, and the husband was such an amazing preacher. He was like really good at like sharing Krishna consciousness with people in high positions in society. He would even go into the House of Commons in like the British government and talk to government officials, and he got the Prime Minister to come to visit Bhaktivedanta Manor, and was really, really good at just schmoozing with these VIPs and secular society, and went to speak of giving classes and preaching to devotees and things. And so actually I think they were disciples of Tamal Krishna Raj, Gauri Prabhu and his wife, I can't remember his wife's name. She was definitely a disciple of Tamal Krishna Raj. And then Tamal Krishna Raj told her he said, you should earn money for the family so that he can preach, because he's such an empowered preacher. You should let him study and let him preach. And so she was a corporate lawyer. She had a great job. So that was the way that she served her husband, was by working as a corporate lawyer, earning money so that he could preach, because that was his thing. So generally and traditionally, it's the man who earns money and maintains the family, is the provider and the protector. But depending on what's needed, then both, sometimes it can look different, and that's also okay, because one of the things says here that the wife should serve the husband according to time, place, and circumstances, and circumstances are different for different times and different couples, and everyone's situation is unique. And we just basically need to find a way to make it work, right? Try to navigate the relationship in such a way that, really we're serving each other and we're serving Krishna. We're serving Krishna together directly by doing devotional service to Krishna together, and by hearing and chanting and serving our devotee community and our temple and the deities together, but also serving each other together in ways that supports and provides what the other needs to continue serving Krishna, to be inspired in the service of Krishna. So, yeah. Any other points?
I just wanted to share, when I was brought up in India, and practically every Indian knows the meaning of the word Ardhangi. Ardhangi means better half. So, general understanding is
What's the word again?
Ardhangi. Ardha means half. Better
Okay.
half. So, general understanding is that, just like in a vehicle, there are two sides. So, you divide the responsibilities and share the responsibilities. But I was startled when I came to know about the real meaning, and my respect for our scriptures grew manifold. So the real meaning that was explained by one of the devotees was, better half explaining the scriptures is basically the husband's bad karma, 50% of bad karma, is not going to his wife.
The husband, say again? I didn't understand.
Husband's 50%. It is said husband's 50% of his good karma goes to his wife.
Okay, let me just
Bad
repeat.
karma doesn't go.
The 50% of the husband's good karma goes to the wife, but the bad karma doesn't go.
But vice versa, wife's 50% bad karma goes to husband, but not good.
Okay, but the 50% of the wife's bad karma goes to the husband, but her good karma doesn't go. So marriage is a good deal for the wife, but it can be a bad deal for the husband. So that's good. Places an impetus on the husband to be a good person, so that his wife can also, develop good qualities. And for the wife to support her husband in doing more good karma, right? More devotional service so that she can get the benefit of that too. Very nice, yeah. So the husband sets a good example of being a pure Vaishnava, then the wife will become better and not give any sinful activities not give any bad karma to her husband. Good. Thank you. So these relationships are very important, right? Most of us at some point in our life are going to be in this kind of relationship. And so it's important to know how to navigate it so that everybody can be happy and support each other and make spiritual advancement. Generally also there's another place where Prabhupada says that the psychology of a man is that he wants to be superior. Whether he's actually superior or not is another thing, but in any case he wants to be superior. So the wife, it helps the relationship for the wife to take the role of being submissive and making the husband her hero. Like that. That every man wants to be seen as a hero in the eyes of his wife. So it's helpful for, even if the husband has a lot of faults or faults that are prominent, but to overlook those faults and try to pay attention to the good qualities and found the spark of good qualities, so that he feels honored and respected by his wife, and that is very helpful for the husband-wife relationship. And it helps. It becomes like self-fulfilling prophecy, right? That if the wife praises the good qualities of the husband, then those good qualities are going to grow, and he becomes a better person by the wife treating him and just founding the spark of those good qualities. Okay, it's time, so let's wrap it up here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki